Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new spoiler warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. This is our premiere, our flagship, our wrestling talk show where we answer your questions and of course cover everything going on in wrestling plus plenty of exclusive news that you can't find anywhere else. Today's headlines will include NXT chasing the 1 million viewership and what they're doing to try to get there, the panic going on with the ratings in AEW, SummerSlam's mission, the mission statement at least that I was given and tweeted about, to kill AEW Collision, which has been largely successful. Cody Rhodes being paired up with Jey Uso for a reason. The tag team rebuild, which includes teams like the Street Profits, and how successful it's being so far. Not very. A little touch on the Sasha Banks video that I released on Sunday. Can already see some people commenting on it, and I appreciate all of you doing so. Something on Lashley wanting it small. Triple H in charge, and how we already know that, and Drew McIntyre lining up for Seth Rollins, and how we already know that. So, those are our headlines. I'm going to say hi to everyone, but just before I start doing so, we, on our last show on Friday, reached a record 32 likes in the first 5 minutes. I'm not going to ask for 32, but we have 40 people watching right now. If everyone here gave the video a like, we'd see the viewership spike immediately, and we'd be finding plenty of new viewers and growing the channel. If we can get up to, let's say, 20, I'd be in a very, very happy place. Let's say hi to everyone, and please remember to hit that thumbs up. So Daniela raised a point. I've noted that down. It was in there. See if you spotted it. It might be hiding. It's very small. LFUK is saying PWInsider reported Endeavour seems to have knighted Triple H. More on that shortly. Hello Joe, hello Brad, hello Khalid. Sai is taking out the trolls. Well done Sai, I appreciate you. Brad Becker says, who's ready for the best wrestling news show on YouTube? Me? Oh, it's very sweet, thank you. Daniela is ready. Steve is here of the SCW channel saying, what's happening, Colohue in chat? Hope you're all doing well. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Tell Steve how you're doing, guys. Everyone tell Steve that you're doing good. Or if you're not, tell him that. Joey says, hey Tom, do you got any news on PWInsider report that Vince may be out of creative? Yes, I do. And in fact, I've already given quite a bit about it, but I'll clarify it later on as well. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat. Daniela saying, yo. Steve is saying, any updates on a Brock Lesnar return for Crown Jewel? He's usually at these shows and predict he'll be next to challenge Seth. That back of Seth could be in more jeopardy with a trip to Suplex City. That's certainly a possibility. Essentially, as we build towards War Games, Brock Lesnar's a fairly obvious choice to be an immediate contender, but currently there is a contract to be renewed before we can get there. To my knowledge, at this point in time, that has not happened. Jordan, hello. Squid, hi. KJ, what's up? Razar is seated for spoiler warning, which is better than standing. Khalid says, Tom, is Carlito officially back now? I don't believe so. It was a very brief appearance and he didn't really do much wrestling. Brad's great. Joe's doing amazing. And Stuart says hi all. On the Twitch side, we have Spider-Boss who says, hello Tom, what's the plan for the tag team titles? We'll cover that in the tag team rebuild section. Bailey says, hello Tom. Hello Bailey. Spider-Boss says, very good video about Mercedes. It's amazing that fans buy those clickbait about Mercedes. Plenty more detail to go into on that one, I promise you. But we do have a 25-minute video on that that's doing extremely well right now. I will get to it shortly. Michael says, hi Tom. Hello Michael. And we are back to the YouTube side. Dad says, big up Tom, what's in store for Kenny Omega now he's teaming with Jericho? Logically, tag team championships, there's a few people who could be perfect opponents for them. I would have thought FTR, but that wasn't to be. KJ saying, 40 plus viewers and only 15 likes. The video will not continue till everyone likes it. I'm not going to be that guy, but KJ can do it for me. 48 people watching, 50 people watching, I should say, 20 likes so far. 1 minute away from that point of record. Can we get 5 more? Can we get 5 more? Check if you've liked. If you haven't, and you're watching on a phone, turn, click, and done. It's that simple and has a huge effect on the algorithm and the growth of the channel. Marcel says, I think the reason Cody and Jay have the tag titles is so they can go to SmackDown and start with a feud between Solo, Jimmy, Jay, Cody, and Roman, with Cody finishing the story. It certainly does suggest that we're about to see Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus Solo, Sikoa, and Jimmy Uso. Certainly would be fun. Spider-Boss says, Carlito on social media announced he is back in WWE as a full-timer. Full-time is a stretch, it really is. Razar says, are they doing War Games this year for the women? It seems like they don't have enough of a story for one compared to the men. Not as of yet, but they do still have time to create one. Damage Control are likely to be a key part of it, and Bianca Belair's return will play into it. Joey says, Kairi Sane finished up in Stardom last night. When do you expect to see her back in WWE? She'd be a shoo-in for War Games, wouldn't she? Khalid really hopes War Games returns. I still very much expect it. Mustafa says, hi Tom, hi community. I was travelling for work and missed Fastlane. Don't judge me too harshly. You've been judged. As absolutely fine, don't you worry. Daniela says, don't Kevin and Sammy deserve a rematch, or it could be time for new tag teams challenging for titles? Again, we'll come up in the tag team rebuild. And Sean says, hello Tom. Hello Sean. So be sure to continue getting your questions in. Subscribe if you haven't already. One more gets us to 2. Nope, still not 2. I'm still used to saying 2. To 5,290. We're extremely close now to reaching that record as well. Just the 1 subscriber away. Let's start with NXT versus AEW. NXT and Dynamite renew their rivalry. NXT are currently chasing a point of 1 million plus viewers. One of the reasons they're chasing that is to try and put NXT as close to possible as being on a par with Monday Night Raw as they can. This will naturally massively increase what they can expect as regards revenue for a TV deal. Today presents them with a perfect opportunity, an opportunity they have not had in a long time, to make 2 points in one night and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or 1 Cody Rhodes, as it may in fact be. They are trying at this point in time to not just get to the 1 million viewership, but to prove a point that if AEW are getting a great TV deal right now, surely NXT deserves even better for having considerably better ratings. NXT will destroy AEW Dynamite tomorrow night. The change alone from the usual Dynamite slot will decrease viewership. That's just normal. If SmackDown was on a Thursday, you wouldn't get anywhere near the amount of viewers. People like their established schedules. And when that is changed, that means that people will struggle to make that change automatically. They're going to have lower viewers. Right now they already have lower viewers than NXT, only by a small amount, but they do have lower viewers. When you add in Cody Rhodes, Becky Lynch, Asuka, John Cena, Paul Heyman, you know those viewerships are going to increase. And that's just who they've announced. Don't forget that they still have Dominic Mysterio and regular appearances from the Judgment Day, and the Judgment Day are proving to be draws on both NXT and Monday Night Raw, plus every now and then when they appear on SmackDown. So they are doing the job. The WWE is focused on beating AEW, but there's a reason for that. It is not for bragging rights. It is admittedly because Triple H wants to prove right that it's a marathon, not a sprint. He is looking to prove that. But the first and foremost focus in their minds is getting as much money through the door as possible so that they do not have to release wrestlers going forwards. Triple H and Shawn Michaels have been working together directly to ensure that NXT gets as much attention as they can possibly get it. The end result should be huge opportunities for wrestlers going forwards and a return to form for NXT. I really think they're going to go all out tomorrow. Plus, you then have the season premiere of SmackDown coming, another point to prove. Roman Reigns has been invited to make an NXT appearance in the coming weeks. I don't think necessarily they're going to use him in that capacity, but if he's available and he decides to go for it, they will take it. Essentially, if they don't quite hit the million, they'll pull out the big guns. Yes, I just referred to Becky Lynch, Cody Rhodes, John Cena, Asuka and Paul Heyman as not the big guns. And I'm not even joking. More on this as it comes in. As you know, I've been tracking this for a while, so it's very interesting over the last couple of days. Fightful Selector reporting that NXT are loading up with talent to try and get a new TV deal. Again, weeks I've been reporting that one. Thank you, Fightful, for confirming my report. We'll go back to the chat before we get to our next piece of news. We have 28 likes, 2 more gets us up to 30. Spider-Boss says, do you see Rhea Ripley defending her title at Crown Jewel? Yes, I do. Nia Jax seems the obvious opponent. The only reason she wasn't featured at Fastlane was because they are doing the rotation with the Women's Championships. They were doing it with the US Intercontinental Championships as well. but we did have that interrupted by the return of Tommaso Ciampa. Joey says, do you think Cody is going down to NXT to announce the Dusty Classic since he's tag champ now? Yes. I don't think that's just him being tag champ. I think it's also, the heritage. He would be the perfect person to do so. I think he'll open the show, announce the Dusty Classic, maybe stick around to watch some of the wrestling, and then basically go back to Raw and leave it to other people. I also think it's not impossible that Judgment Day will feature in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic and will be defeated. Daniela says, the tribal chief and head of the table, WWE champion Roman Reigns, returns to SmackDown this Friday. What could unfold this Friday when he is there? Revenge. He will not be happy at Jimmy. He'll be less unhappy at Solo, because Solo can beat him up. Brad sent me a question on Twitter. I don't have that to hand, and I don't really have the ability to do checking things all at once. It's a very high-paced show. Can you drop it into the chat here, please, mate? I'll answer it for you. Squid says, I'm ready for new tag team belts. Just one belt instead of two each would be ideal. I don't see one belt per se, but I do think they will split them back up again. The tag team rebuild I'll get into in a little bit. Razar says, do you have any idea what Triple H's appearance in SmackDown is for? Well, there's only one thing I can certainly think of. War Games. Because William Regal can't do it. Hector says it's so ironic that Cody Rhodes is not only going to war for the guy whose throne he smashed, but is going head-to-head with the company he helped build. And Hector, that is an amazingly good point. Cody Rhodes is taking on the company that he created on behalf of a company that he left because he wasn't happy there. How the landscapes have changed. Spider-Boss says, I wonder if NXT can reach the 1 million viewers without the main roster talent. It's a good question, a very good question, but they're not going to let us find out. Spider-Boss also says, the draw's back this week, the tribal chief Roman Reigns. Hello, Martin says, hi mate, lurking tonight while I drive. I have not forgotten to send you that video, Martin. I admittedly have forgotten, but it's still in my brain to get round to it. I will send it tonight. Khalid says, are you happy to see The Undertaker tomorrow on NXT? I don't know if we necessarily will. I think the tease of him being there will be enough to draw the viewers anyway. We'll see how it plays out. Hello, Noob. King Azza says, hey, Tom, do you think Cody winning the Tag Team Championships is the start of his way back to Roman? Certainly it opens a door, but doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. Razar says, NXT has been my favourite wrestling show for months. The way all the talent is showcased is incredible. I wish the main roster would take notes. Well, the main roster being basically there as well does sort of help that. Joey says, do you see Becky staying down there for a while since she's been drawing good numbers for NXT? Yes, I do. She has a long list of people she wants to work with. She will be back regularly on the main roster competing with main roster talent early next year because she is needed for Rhea Ripley. Michael says they load up NXT with main roster talent, get the TV deal, and then go back to it being purely developmental. I wouldn't say purely. We're still likely to see people like Dominic featured, Baron Corbin, but it will be mostly people who they think need a bit of further development. Hector says, why on earth did they play Undertaker's dong? They didn't play his dong, they played his gong. A dong is something else. At the end of the preview, would that be considered the big guns? Yes, it would. And certainly with there being rumours of him making an appearance, how can you not capitalise on that? Barry says, you mean Otis might be in NXT? Yeah, absolutely. Why not? KJ laughing at big guns. KJ says, Punk returns to WWE after 9 years, but in NXT, those are the big guns. Joey says, BWE reported Bronson Reed will be Gunter's next challenger. Do you see this match at Crown Jewel? Probably not. It's not really Crown Jewel worthy for me. John says, do you see Becky versus Tegan main eventing Raw tonight? Personally, no. I think the match will happen likely early in the show, if not the first match. Daniela says, when are the Women's Tag Team Championships going to be defended? As soon as they can work out a storyline and have time on the show for it. It's a real shame that they've not been able to make it happen. Jared Berry says, hey Tom, how are you? Doing well, thank you. Who do you see Rollins feuding with now? Well, with War Games coming up, he's going to need someone top level to feud with. Drew McIntyre is right there. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I think it might be saved for later down the road. For now, I think it's up to Seth to basically set his own terms. I'd keep my eye on Gunter, personally. Joey says, Dragon Lee is listed on SmackDown now. Does this mean he's officially called up? He is officially called up. He has confirmed it personally. Good evening, Eric. How are you? Moxie says, what is up, my tribal chief Tom Colohue? It's good to always acknowledge you. True, Michael. True. Sad. True. Spider-Boss says, WWE never acknowledged AEW competition, but now they use main roster talents to compete with AEW Dynamite. The Wednesday war really struck a nerve on WWE. You seem to have missed a lot of what I've said about why they're doing this. it is AEW, but it's far more than that. Sai says, the question, was the draft predominantly a Vince McMahon thing? Just wondering if they'll give up on it entirely and when Vince disappears again. The draft was predominantly a Fox thing. Fox were pushing for it to make it more like sport. Vince McMahon was into the idea because he likes the idea of WWE being legitimized in that manner. It was very much a Vince McMahon thing, but was also largely led by Fox. Daniela says, could Ricochet be next in line for Seth? I hope so. He was on crutches 2 weeks ago on Raw, though. That certainly was a story that they were telling. I don't know if they've stuck the landing on it, though. Michael Winston, I should say, what do you think is next for Lashley and the Profits? Lashley wanting to keep it small is one of my headlines. King Azza says, Tom, do you think Seth was booked like prime babyface Roman at Fastlane? I think fans will be turning on him soon. Not necessarily prime babyface, because ultimately Seth has been through the face, heel, and then face again moment. So this is like the after the Tribal Chief moments. Moxie wants Roman versus Seth at Survivor Series. Wouldn't hate it. KJ says, in my opinion, they should save Reed for versus Gunter for Elimination Chamber. It's in Australia, where Reed is from. It'll be a hot crowd, so you know they'll be involved, and also Reed will be over as a face, which is in no way unfair, and a very good comment to make. Spider-Bell says, Raw's going to be interesting. Rhea will be angry after the Judgment Day lost the tag team titles. Yes, and as she's basically in charge now, that will be where they're going with it. Joe says, what did you think what do you think of Fastlane? Was okay, I'd give it a 6. Wrestling was alright, not much happened. Dylan says, hi Tom, now that Cody is tag team champion with Jay, where do you think his storyline was going and how long do you think they'll have the belts for? More on that shortly. Hector says, Tom, any idea if the choice to pivot Drew to his current character is Triple H's or Drew's? Because honestly his character is great, he's not a hero, just a badass who doesn't need friends or help, plus he teased Broken Dreams again in a recent video. More on that shortly. A lot of it I've already discussed, but there is a Drew versus Seth section coming. I have no idea what that means, Liam. Eric says, hi Tom, do you see Chad Gable competing again against Gunter later down the line, or it was a one-off? Everything is on the table. And Joey says, do you think Damian Priest could get kicked out of the Judgment Day and JD McDonough takes his place? Everything is on the table. Right now, no briefcase. Razar says, why is Rhea getting left off so many PLEs? She's a world champion. They never have people like Cody or Seth miss a PLE. Primarily because, as I say, they're rotating the women's championships to make sure both women get the attention that they deserve and that the actual pay-per-views are not overloaded. If they have all of the champions on every show, what you'll end up with is, 11? And that's just not going to work for anyone. Next up then, our next piece of news is a panic going through AEW as to their ratings. We currently have 37 likes but 76 viewers. 3 more likes gets us to 40. If you can, please get on it. AEW are absolutely confident, and this comes basically from Tony Khan, that they will be losing tomorrow. They have absolute confidence in this. Not only that, but they're also accepting their fate. Tony Khan is of the opinion that having lost CM Punk, they are suffering in the ratings because of a lack of that draw, and also the damage done not only by firing CM Punk, but also by those who only actually watched AEW for CM Punk leaving all over again. The impact of Edge has not been immediate. I do think over time it will increase, but Edge brings in a demographic that AEW doesn't actually cater for all that well. Edge brings in older wrestling viewers who may not be particularly happy with work like the wrestling that the Young Bucks puts on, for example. They are very different styles that doesn't appeal to necessarily every single group, and you do have to keep that in mind. Tony Khan is essentially accepting of defeat, but he is hoping they can still put on a show worthy of it. The TV deals are coming up soon and they're confident they can get a good deal. The issue is, with the people that they have when it comes to going forwards, the fact that Cody Rhodes and Jade Cargill are being pushed so strong in WWE is making a lot of people very, very nervous about the position of the top wrestlers in AEW. I've mentioned on another show on OLE yesterday, where I appeared for their Busting Out special, that there is a number of wrestlers that WWE is definitely interested in, including Samoa Joe, MJF, and that they desperately want Adam Cole back. There are nervous moments in AEW because of this, and there is a general nervousness at the moment about the fact that their show doesn't seem to be going upwards. In fact, when it comes to ticket sales, when it comes to the ratings, it's going down. Tony Khan blames CM Punk. Or at least that's what I've heard backstage from the locker room. Connected to that is the failure to launch that was AEW Collision. It was to be the vehicle of CM Punk. It is now going to be the vehicle of Adam Copeland. But even then, the vehicle is not exactly firing off in a 0 to 60 at rapid pace. The actual Collision operation was crushed at the first real obstacle. Collision has not recovered from the first time it went up against a WWE pay-per-view. I was told before SummerSlam that they were looking at the actual pay-per-view as a perfect opportunity to crush the opposition and make a statement. A lot of people in WWE are celebrating having done just that. Still to come, we're going to be talking Cody Rhodes raising Jey Uso up to a higher echelon. The tag team rebuild. We're going to discuss the Sasha Banks Mercedes Money video that I put out on Sunday. Lashley wanting it small. Triple H in charge. And Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. So, let's catch up with the chat and we'll get to it. Joey says, is WWE turning Drew heel and possibly giving him his old theme back to get Drew to re-sign? More on that shortly. Jason says, greetings Tom and chat. Good well wishes to you all. Welcome Jason, how you doing? Dylan says, Tom, this will not happen, but what is the likelihood of Roman and Rock next year at WrestleMania? You've just said it, mate. Leon says, I thought Edge was a draw, but sadly he isn't. Unfortunately not. I think he adds a lot to a show and he can draw. The thing is, he might be one of the biggest draws in wrestling, and we don't know because AEW have fallen that far already. Sean says, quite rightly, WWE announced the first 30 minutes of NXT will be commercial free. Yeah. And ultimately, that is their current TV deal helping them to get a better TV deal. King Azza says, do you see Cody and Jay dropping the tags before Royal Rumble? Personally, no, though I do think they'll both be in it. Razar says, I think they can have both women's championships on the show. They were doing it before, I don't get it. But if they do it every single time, there's less rotation. The pay-per-views are more loaded up with matches and less satisfying. And when it comes to, for example, what am I saying? I'm saying something. When it comes to moments like Nia Jax's return, they essentially have to write a new story every 4 weeks, and they just don't really have the capacity to do that at the moment. What I will say is that they don't have both world championships on the show right now. Roman Reigns doesn't defend all the time. In fact, he defends less now than ever before. So they're not necessarily just doing it with the women's championships. The men's aren't featuring all the time either. Hello, Vape, how you doing? Hector says the way they made Jade look last night was the one thing AEW never really could capitalise on. Plus Triple H looked generally happy that he has her on his roster. He's been pushing for it. He has personally been pushing for it. Spider-Boss says Cody went from being number one enemy of the Bloodline to now being tag team champion of a former member of the Bloodline in main event Jey Uso. I would debate number one enemy. I think Sami Zayn will still have that title. Joey says, is AEW losing money with the low viewership they're doing on Collision and Wednesday night? Nope, doesn't impact their bottom line whatsoever. Eric says, hello, how are you? Doing very well, thank you. Welcome to the show, Eric. Jason says, why does Roman only compete in a part-time manner? Because his contract is very clear. He only works part-time, and you can't make him work more. You can't do it. You literally can't do it. You can try, but you will not be successful. Next up, Cody Rhodes has been paired up with Jey Uso for a reason. Cody Rhodes is the number one guy in WWE when it comes to the media, when it comes to working with the media, when it comes to connecting for interviews and the like. And the idea is if Jey Uso is going to be a top guy, he needs someone like that with him to develop those skills. That is exactly what is happening. You saw the very, very memorable connection they had at the media press conference. It's actually the only part of any press conference I've watched since WWE started doing them with Triple H, because it's just not interesting. You get the headlines the next day and people ask questions about Taylor Swift to try and generate clickbait. Thankfully, we have people like Rick Ucchino, who I've worked with in the past and I know quite well, who will always ask at least good questions. And he does feel you, Jay. He does feel you. The partnership is an elevation of Jey Uso and a very valued one that will bring him up even further, because right now the name is main event Jey Uso, but he always played second fiddle when it comes to, for example, Roman Reigns. He always played second fiddle to Sami Zayn recently. Now he's admittedly still playing second fiddle to Cody Rhodes, but Cody's job is to bring him up further to the absolute top degree. No one does media like Cody Rhodes. The only person who even comes close is The Miz. But no one does media like Cody Rhodes. The man has a natural charisma and a natural method of connecting to people. I say from experience, Cody Rhodes is the guy. Sean says, Jay said in an interview Cody was one of the reasons she came over to WWE. She won't be the last. She may be the first, but she won't be the last. And in future, people will also mention Jade Cargill. King Azza says, when do you see Jade debuting? I think tonight. Depends what you mean by debut. I don't think she'll wrestle tonight. I don't think she'll wrestle for a little while. Eric, I understand a little bit of Spanish. Not too much, but I did, for a while, date a young Mexican woman in my younger days myself, when I was still 16, 17. And I picked up a little bit. Dylan says, Tom, it might be Cody, but I personally think Solo should be the one to take the title from Roman. I agree. Kang says, hey Tom, been a little while, Kang, how you doing? Love your content. Cody's still most likely to be main event versus Roman at WrestleMania 40. Seems so, yes. Jason enjoys Jay and Cody as a tag team. Mick Moon is saying Odyssey Jones reportedly considered for WWE stable via House of Wrestling. Rizar has brought in the original source there. Thank you, Mick, and thank you, Rizar, saying Fightful was saying that Odyssey Jones could be joining Bobby Lashley's group. Have you heard anything on this? More on this shortly. Hector says, I see a Jay and Cody versus Jimmy and Solo coming in the near future. I mentioned that earlier myself as well. I can definitely see that. New says, I don't want to see Taylor Swift in a match with Io Sky, which is good because you're not going to. That was not going to happen. This happens, and unfortunately I've had to do it myself, where your outlet or whoever you work for tell you, you have to mention this person. You have to mention this famous person. You have to clickbait. You have to clickbait, you have to clickbait. And you do it because it's your job and it's what you've been told to do by your bosses. And you just feel dirty while you do it. It's wrong. Spiderbell says, Rhea Ripley seemed very happy while she was looking at Jey Uso because she's a good actress. Rob says, will we see the return of Broken Dreams for Drew McIntyre? More on that shortly. JJ says, if the women have a War Games match, will it just be SmackDown women or Raw women are getting one too? There is no SmackDown or Raw when it comes to Survivor Series and War Games. Bailey says, today's announcement of the Becky Lynch memoir said it will release the book just before WrestleMania. The timing is no accident, is it? No. They know what's going to generate headlines and what's going to sell a book. Moxie says, Tom, what do you think Roman will say about Rhea mocking him on Friday? I don't know if he'll really get involved in that personally. I think he's Roman and he'll try and stay above it. Though I do think there'll be a Roman, Rhea Ripley stare down. And we'll call it the Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley. Not all my jokes are going to be winners. Eric says about the press conference, is it true that Triple H banned questions about CM Punk? No. Nope. If House of Wrestling was there, there'd have been questions about CM Punk and you know it. Nothing was banned. That's not something that happens. Jay Brown says, hi Tom. Hello Jay, how are you? King Arthur said, I'd rather have a triple threat, Cody versus Roman versus Rock, and have Cody pin Rock. You will not be getting your wish. Dylan says, I know before I say this, but I'm actually looking forward to seeing where Cody and Jay go next. It does create opportunities, and it does mean that Cody Rhodes has a reason to be constantly featured. They will not take your eyes off Cody Rhodes for a long time. Razar says Triple H in the press conference was asked about NXT, and he said pretty much that the pandemic killed it and they needed to rebuild, and that's why NXT 2.0 was made. It's not the full story, it is part of it though. Spider-Boss says AEW peaked it all in, but then CM Punk got fired, and Adam Cole got injured. AEW needs some help. Well, they have some help. Dan says, hi Tom, late, bet I've missed a lot. Hope your Cherry Coke supply is there. Nope, I'm drinking Orangeade at the moment. Cherry Coke's my Friday drink. Joey says, is DIY a part of this tag team rebuild? No, they're under contract for a competitor. Jay says, NXT tomorrow looking good. It is indeed. Eddie says, you have anything on new signings returns for WWE? Nope. Mez says, Tom, who do you think Triple H is booking for the men's and women's title matches at Mania? I've gone into this at length before, but let's reiterate. I think Io Sky will be facing Bayley based on current storylines. I think Rhea Ripley will be taking on Becky Lynch based on not current storylines, and the fact that there isn't one already, quite telling for me. I think that Seth Rollins, we'll get to that shortly, and I think Roman Reigns should face Solo, but he won't. Spider-Boss says, I would rather prefer Roman versus Solo. Hector says, I know I'm not the only person who thinks Roman's current reign isn't as great as a lot of people think. Due to Roman never really being around, it's kind of killed it for me. I'm honestly more interested in his post-title career and where it goes. The second Sami Zayn left the bloodline, it was over for me. Kang says, any word on Brock? No word on Brock. There would need to be a new contract for Brock Lesnar. His contract runs based on SummerSlams, so there is usually a gap after SummerSlam for Brock Lesnar to go back and do some farming. Razar says AEW also played a part in killing Black and Gold. Just thought Triple H answer was interesting. He's very good at his social media and his actual media. Eddie says, anything on new tag belts? We've been hearing about new tag belts for 2 years. 2 years. We've been hearing conclusively that it's happening right now for 2 years. So far, nothing. Dylan says, what do you think Cody's special announcement will be at NXT? It's been mentioned in the chat before. Dusty Classic makes the most sense to me. We have 86 viewers right now, 48 likes. 2 more gets us up to 50. We've been very reliably hitting 50 likes recently, and it is starting to have a massive positive impact on the view count. So please do consider hitting that like button to get us up to 50 if you haven't already, and subscribe if you haven't as well. We're currently at a record 5,289. One more gets us up to 90, and then we can start the push to 5,300. Next up, tag team rebuild. Triple H made it a mission to increase the overall impact of the tag division, to get some new tag teams being featured, and to make sure that current tag teams are used a lot more effectively. This is one of the reasons that the Street Profits were paired with Bobby Lashley. We've also seen a lot more of the Viking Raiders, the New Day returning naturally, and there was actually a plan for Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle. It was just more based on trying to keep Matt Riddle in check. When it comes to the tag division, however, it's not been a success. And that's why you're getting seemingly random pairings like Cody and Jey Uso being thrown together very late on, knowing that the whole point is that Jey Uso is trying to prove himself to Cody Rhodes that he's actually a good guy. Now, what we're going to see is Cody interacting with the Bloodline, and the question of, is Jey Uso actually on the Bloodline side? I mean, Jimmy turned back. Can you trust Jey Uso, Cody, or is he waiting to stab you in the back? That is a story that they will be telling, but that's not a tag team story, meaning that the tag team champions are now directly involved again with the Bloodline. We had 2 months where someone other than Bloodline members held the tag team championships. And what happened in that 2 months? The Judgment Day got involved with the Bloodline. The Bloodline are setting the agenda, and I've got to say, it's making the tag team titles a bit worthless, a bit pointless. Teams like Pretty Deadly are getting tag team matches, but they're not being used effectively because of injuries, because of lack of airtime, and because simply Triple H doesn't seem to value tag team wrestling. There are a very small amount of tag teams currently being regularly featured, and this is why we have not split the tag team championships again. Triple H doesn't believe there is enough talent in the tag division to make it work. The problem is, he now has to have another go, because if he can't rebuild the tag division with less time, tag teams will be getting let go. A number of wrestlers in tag teams have been told to change up their act and come up with new characters, or they could be in trouble. A number of tag teams and a number of tag team wrestlers will be rebranded in an effort to make them relevant again. At the same time, Cameron Grimes and Dragon Lee are now going to be working tag team matches. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are working tag team matches. Established tag teams, they are at risk right now. Triple H will start another tag team rebuild. Fingers crossed this one is a lot more successful than the last. Mez says, do you think Rhea versus Becky will happen at Elimination Chamber instead of WrestleMania? Nope. King Azza says, everyone wanted Roman as a heel, now he's a heel, people don't like him as a heel. People do like him as a heel, people love him as a heel, and that's why he's not the best heel in the world. Mick Moon says, PWInsider noted on their Elite audio, Brian Pillman Jr. won't get to keep his name when he goes to NXT. Thank you, Mick, for bringing that in and sourcing it. The word around the Performance Center at this time is that the name Lexis King will be given. Lexis King. Interesting. FDR says, hello. What's new with Colohue? Been a while since I joined Spoiler Warning live sesh. Welcome, FDR. Good to see you, mate. It's never that long, to be honest. Whenever you drop in, you say, oh, it's been a while. And I'm like, I swear I saw you last week. You're a regular here. I know you well. What's new for Colohue? Good stuff. I mean, if you've not been here for a little while, you might notice the subscriber rate has gone way up, and the view rate is starting to go up as well. We've reached a really nice run of form on Sunday videos that you might enjoy. Daniela says, could an Imperium breakup be in the works? Gunter has made Ludwig responsible for Giovanni Vinci when Ludwig messes up, but then again they did win against Alpha Academy last week. To my knowledge, there is no plan to break up Imperium right now. Gunter is kind of protecting them just in case. Dylan says, Triple H is a SmackDown on Friday. Could he be splitting the tag titles up? Yes, anything is on the table, but most importantly, War Games. Roger says, who will get the better rating, NXT or AEW? NXT. Hector says, I don't know if anyone mentioned it or if you've talked about it, Tom, but why on earth did they change Carlito's theme? Because honestly, I had no idea who it was at first, because the person who made that theme is no longer with the company and they can't guarantee the license. They just don't want to get into legal trouble. Moxley says, I can't wait for that Roman Reigns and Rhea Ripley stare down. Stop doing it. It's not funny and you know it's not funny. Stop doing it, Tom. Sean says, sometimes even a random team can be successful. Look at the Bar. True, and random teams, when you pair them up and give them time, it does work like that, but it's at the expense of established teams at this point. Dan says, Undertaker turns up at NXT tomorrow. I mean, there's a gong for a reason. Not a dong, as was said earlier, though there is a dong, there is a gong as well. Moxley says, I want to see if Roman will simp for Rhea like Jay and Dom is doing. No. Roman is a one-woman man. Wikipedia says Rhea turned fully heel with the audience by not letting Damien cash in Saturday, but yeah, she's pretty much the leader of Judgment Day. She is considered now to be the breakout star of the Judgment Day. Dominic was the focus last year, Rhea is the focus this year, though Damien seems like he might end up being the focus next year. Wikipedia says, is it Eric or Ivar that's injured? Vegeta says it's Eric, and then Eric says, I'm fine. It's good stuff, guys. I really like that. Zane says, who's the greatest tag team of all time? I'm leaning towards the Usos, to be honest. Trekipedia says, Tom kicking butt. Everyone help him out by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Thank you, Trekipedia. They have, because I asked to get above 48 likes. We then got 12 when I asked for 2, and we're now at 60. Thank you. Spider-Boss says, do you see EO and Dakota turning on Bailey? Nope. Other way around. Joey says, do you see the Viking Raiders being Cody and Jay's next challengers? Nope. There is an injury to Eric, but not Eric. Daniela says, I'm happy they didn't change Jade Cargill's name. How come they changed Brian Pillman Jr.'s name? I'm not personally aware of any information about it. I would wait to see if it actually happens. King Arthur says, who do you think Roman Reigns faces at Crown Jewel and Survivor Series? I'm leaning towards AJ Styles. FDR says, WWE hasn't even pulled out the big guns yet. They didn't officially announce The Undertaker, and they have Roman Reigns in the bag. Spider-Boss says, I wasn't that wrong by calling Rhea Ripley the leader of Judgment Day, and look at her now. Nobody ever said you were wrong, mate. Wikipedia says, thank you guys, I hope Ivar gets a good push. The guy busts his hump. And Alyssa says, can't wait for an NXT like WrestleMania tomorrow. Wow. WrestleMania level cards. They do go around, don't they? Welcome, Alyssa. Nice to see you. A few more things to discuss. And firstly, I know you're probably sick of me promoting that CM Punk video. I know you're all sick of hearing about it, so I'm not going to promote it anymore. Instead, I'm going to promote the video that came out yesterday about Sasha Banks. It is one of the longest videos I've done at 25 minutes in one single take. See if you can spot the things I should have edited out. I literally clicked record, talked for 25 minutes, and then clicked stop record. There is a number of different sources involved. It is a deep dive on wrestling media and the narrative around Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Money. Particularly that if you now use Google AI, if you search on Google, the AI will give you the answer. If you search, why did Sasha Banks leave WWE? It will give you the answer because she wanted more money. I'm not kidding. That's what happens. It's massively incorrect and completely unfair. The video I uploaded is an attempt to fix that, an attempt to make it work. So I'm going to grab a link to the video because I'm extremely proud of it. I advise you not to get it at this point in time. Don't watch it right now. Don't watch it right now. You're watching this right now. Don't watch it right now. But what I will do is drop it down in the comments, pin it to the top on YouTube. I can't do that on Twitch. It's not an option I have. But pin it to the top so that if you like, you can watch it after the show ends. I would very much appreciate your continued support. It's already gotten more than 1,000 views. I'm wondering, because it's still the actual view count, it's not a straight bar. Usually it goes up, then it goes around, and then it goes basically flat. That's usually how the videos go. This one went up, went round, and then it started to go back up again. It's gaining momentum, and I'm extremely proud of it. Please do remember, if watching, to hit the like and comment as well. The comments are doing extremely well, and they're the main reason these videos are doing fantastic. So, let's see. Dan says, with Dax trademarking CM FTR, what do we reckon is the plan? To wrestle with CM Punk, but not in AEW. Moxley says, Tom, was Finn Balor the leader of Judgment Day before Rhea took charge? Nope, there was no leader before Rhea Ripley decided it was her. Dylan says, Tom, I think it's Survivor Series will begin a War Games match between the Judgment Day and the Bloodline versus Jay, Cody, Sammy, Kevin, and whoever else they decide to pair with them. Trekipedia said I didn't even notice the Undertaker gong until one of my friends let me know about it. I was like, yeah, they're definitely loading the show, not just for versus AEW, but for TV rights negotiations. That is absolutely spot on. Mick says the bona fide WWE Insider, do you mean PWInsider, reported back that Seth Rollins is set to take on that Drew McIntyre is set to take on Seth Rollins next. Could be interesting as they make their way towards Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia via BWE. Thank you for sourcing on that one. More on that shortly, because I do have something on it, and in fact I've had a lot on it over the last few months. Sean says the longer Damien doesn't cash in, the more I believe he fails his cash in. Actually, it goes the other way for me. Daniela says now that Gargano is back, could we see Candice, Indy, Dexter and Ciampa in the way, or are they just focused on Gargano and Ciampa and as DIY? Both could happen. Spiderboss says I remember fans blaming Mercedes/Sasha for not appearing on SummerSlam 2021 just after Bianca got squashed by Becky. I remember reporting on that and being called a liar, which I feature in that video and explain. Alyssa, I also really enjoyed the press conference. And Joey says, do you have any news on Vince? Yes, I do. Let's get to what is left of my news. Firstly, Lashley likes it small. I've said this a few times and I've got zero laughs. I thought that was a killer headline. Apparently it's just not even funny and now I'm sad. But Bobby Lashley is in charge of a faction currently featuring heavily the Street Profits. There is a number of different reports out there about people who could be added to that faction. Creative are pitching a number of people. Bobby Lashley himself is believed to be resistant to the idea. He's not particularly happy expanding until he's got the Street Profits to a good spot as well. Also, Bobby Lashley is a heel, but he's getting like legendary levels of response from the crowd. The fact that he's a heel and people are chanting his name is pretty big. I think he's reached a hell of a level right now, and the pairing of the Street Profits is benefiting him too. Now, there are a number of wrestlers he is interested in working with. You've seen Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams engage with him. That wasn't actually with an intention to join the faction. That was just basically as stand-ins for the Street Profits. However, the idea of Bobby Lashley briefly coming down to NXT on a recruitment mission has been mentioned. And I do think if there is going to be someone, it'll be someone newer. Yes, there is talk of Odyssey Jones, but there's always talk of Odyssey Jones. They don't seem to have any idea what to do with Odyssey Jones, so they're just throwing things at the wall and hoping for the best. It's a shame. A real shame. But we're going somewhere here. And hopefully, if we do get the NXT recruitment mission, we'll have a great time watching it, because there's a lot of people he could recruit. I would have my eye on the obvious ones, Carmelo Hayes, for example, but I'd also be watching Bron Breakker. I think there might be something there. Spiderboss says, after the Mercedes money video, I understand why she doesn't talk with the wrestling media. All those clickbaits about Mercedes were awful. The fact that she was invited to do a podcast with Ryan Satin, who reported that she and Bayley were on the floor crying after losing the tag team championships, is one of many insults thrown at her. Roger says, who will DIY have their first match against? Vegeta says Imperium. Come on, Roger. Which is fair to me, mate. To be honest, mate. Come on, Roger. It's DIY versus Imperium, which will lead to more Ciampa versus Gunter, and of course Gargano versus Gunter. Eric says, like the Sasha Banks video from yesterday, you should do a video of the demise of NXT Black and Gold. NXT BG versus 2.0. I've actually done a full length with Nick Barbati, Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure, explaining all of the reasons why the change happened. I'll take a note of that. It's a good idea and I appreciate you saying it. Dan says, isn't that a sign that CM Punk isn't going to WWE because they wouldn't allow him to appear elsewhere, would they, and aren't FTR AEW exclusive? Yes, all of that is absolutely correct. Spiderboss says, as soon as fans chant Lashley, I remember Leo Rush screaming, Lashley, Lashley, in 2019-2020, and we all have nightmares. Razar says, I like Bobby and the Profits as a trio. They don't need to add more till they get established, in my opinion. I agree. Trekipedia says, I could see Bron Breakker being the next Heyman guy if he gets called up, with that graphic of Heyman being alongside Breakker for tomorrow's NXT. I don't think that's unfair, and I think Paul Heyman could become a regular fixture on NXT, particularly with the bloodline hopefully winding down soon. Vegeta suggests Wesley, which I think is a very good shout as well. Who would you want to see working with Bobby Lashley if he came down to NXT to recruit? Riyadh to say, Tom, just wanted to remind everyone to like the video. Thank you, Riyadh. Appreciate that. We currently have 83 people watching and 67 likes. A huge number. One of the biggest we've had on a spoiler warning for about a year. 3 more gets us to 70 and we keep that ball rolling. Joey says, Ringside News reported, and then I stopped reading. Roger says, what has happened to Nikki Cross? No creative plans for her at the moment. They need to work it out. Joey says, that would be a good vid. Appreciate the support in the second for that suggestion. I'll underline it, just to say the added impetus. Rizal says, I really liked your Sasha video. I wasn't very in the know about that stuff at the time. It was really informative. Thank you. There's certain videos that I've made recently where I've got a real huge amount of compliments on them. The shorts, when I first started doing them about the daily news, got a huge amount of compliments. It made me want to do more, and I have. Are you guys still happy with the shorts? Do you want to change in that one? And yeah, I'm really happy to know that you're enjoying the Sasha video. Joey says maybe you could do a separate video on the ratings war of NXT and AEW, the new TV deals for both companies. I certainly could. I could literally just do a video like a retrospective of the war. So I'm just going to write that. Weird Night War. Ultimately, if you guys want it, you're my quote unquote customers. If you're not going to watch it, no one's going to watch it, because without you watching it, it doesn't basically say to YouTube, hi, people like this. When you guys watch something, when you guys hit like, when you guys leave a comment, that tells YouTube to share it, and it does. So you're my audience, you know. Daniela says, maybe we could get a 6-man of Imperium versus Gargano, Dexter and Ciampa. I did mention that yesterday as well. I do think it's a good idea. Tricky suggests Bobby Lashley and Trick Williams. Sean says, I'd like to see Bianca in Bobby's faction. I have mentioned that as well. When I reported it, it was going to be a heel faction about 2 months before that news became public. Spider-Boss says, I'd love to see Lashley working with Bron Breakker and Carmelo Hayes. Leon says, Imperium is easily one of the best tag teams in WWE. The booking of them outside of Gunter has been weird. Both Kaiser and Vinci are way too good to be losing every week. I agree with that one. If you're going to rebuild the tag team division, there's a tag team right there. Brawling Bruce, much the same. Riyadh says, Tom, do you think WWE are going to do anything of Uncle Howdy? I released a short on this, and I've got to be honest, I don't really want to touch it. I don't really want to touch it. Daniela says, Wesley is a good suggestion. He's disappeared off TV. He quit NXT a month ago nearly. Would be a good shout. Vegeta says they also beat Alpha Academy, former Raw Tag Team champs. This is, of course, as regards Imperium. They haven't been on a good run, but they seem to be gaining some momentum now. Barry suggests Tiffany Stratton in Lashley's group. Cool. Spider-Boss says, sometimes I wish Bayley would be pushed as Becky and Charlotte, but then I remember Bayley is happy putting over other girls in WWE's women's division. You do not get Io Sky as champion without Bayley working as hard as she has to put her over. Eric says, personally, I never liked where fans suggest only black wrestlers to join a Lashley faction. Whether it was the Hurt Business or this new stable, gives me Nation vibes. And that's absolutely fair, Eric. I completely agree, as you likely know. There was a time when there were suggestions made for the Hurt Business and how it was going to be an all-black stable. MVP himself came out and said, I don't want that. Triple H does not like nationalistic stables. I think as a society, we've moved on from that. It's a form of racism. You're pigeonholing people based on one characteristic. It's a form of racism. Riyadh says, also, Tom, with Cody and Jay winning the tag belts, are they finally going to split them up? Doesn't seem to be at the moment. Joey says, I think Odyssey Jones could use the rub from Bobby and the Profits, so he feels important. He needs it because he don't feel important right now. Sean says, Ilya versus Bobby would feed families. Really good way of saying it as well. Hector says, when Eric got hurt, I honestly thought they'd do what they usually do and take both members of the tag team off TV. I'm glad they've let Ivar show what he can do because he's been killing it. They actually did that when Ivar was injured as well. Eric featured for Raw Underground. Daniela says, is there any update on when AJ Styles could come back to SmackDown? Soon. I'd expect him in the next couple of weeks. No worries, Riyadh. I don't personally want to go near it. I don't agree with it, but that's my opinion. King Azza says, do you think they're milking the Bloodline story? Yes. Dylan says, will the Judgment Day split up or let Damien leave? The other Mike says, not sure what's wrong with having a faction with nothing but black men. There are tons and tons of faction with nothing but white men. It's not necessarily the problem with having a faction of primarily or just purely black men. It's the fact that nobody even considers anyone else as a possibility. The fact that if there's a faction, they only suggest the same race, the same colour. you're right that there are tons of factions with just white men. And if when we're talking about more, we listed 50 white men, then it wouldn't look good. It'd be racism. Noob says, the Brawling Brutes are facing Gallus in a bar fight match. Hope that everyone will see a good old UK fight night. Sean suggested Ion Quinn. Spider-Boss says, I think Bron Breakker would be a great Heyman guy. I see Bron Breakker taking the torch from Roman. I think we're way off that. Razar says, is Carlito signed? He's not on the roster page, and he didn't really do much in that match. More on this as I get it. I don't have much information here. I don't expect him to be wrestling week in, week out. Trekkipedia says, Lashley bringing in Bron Breakker could be cool as part of his group. Ellis is talking Taylor Swift. And Moxie says, imagine Ilya versus Roman or Ilya versus AJ Styles. Two more things to discuss. There is a report out, I believe, originating from PWInsider, that WWE have knighted Triple H and he is now in charge of creative. I mean, what? He's been in charge of creative for more than a year. Admittedly, Vince McMahon had a period where he was checking every single script, and now he does that less. I reported that previously. There is no knighting. There is no announcement that yes, now Triple H is in charge. He's been in charge of creative for more than a year. What is this story? How are people re-reporting it? What clickbait is this? Like, seriously, take a moment and consider. If someone reported now, John Cena returns to WWE for 2 months, that's not news. It's in the name. New. News literally means new things. That's what it means. Yet the news is, oh, Triple H is in charge of creative. Who the hell else has been writing the scripts for the past few weeks? Well, past more than a year. Triple H has been in charge for that entire time. Yes, Vince McMahon was briefly overseeing contracts. He's less involved now, but he can still oversee contracts. What's the news here? I mean, seriously, I'm so confused by this. So confused. Ugh. Vegeta, we're not going after anyone for this. You can make suggestions of people who are black. We're more making a wider comment on individuals outside of this sphere. We know we have a good audience here and a good crowd. I have absolute confidence we have no racists here. If we did, we take action immediately. It's not targeted. Riyadh says, any reason for Carlito not using his original theme at Fastlane? I don't believe they have the license for it. Spider-Boss says, I would love to see a WrestleMania in the UK. The UK crowd is awesome. The UK would need, pardon me, to spend a lot of money making that happen. Eric says, was Carlito always supposed to be late? Yep. The original plan was to have him wrestle the entire match. He's not the fittest. Thank you, Trekkipedia. Appreciate that. Barry says, I do think Tony Khan should hint Taylor Swift will be in the AEW crowd tomorrow without actually saying it. I mean, like the gong. Zane says, I hate clickbait, which is similar to what Barry's just said as well. That would be clickbait. Azza says, hey Tom, can you name a time where the wrong wrestler won at WrestleMania? And Roman beating Cody was the wrong call. Brock and Undertaker. Spider-Boss says, how people on social media see PWInsider as a credible source for wrestling news. Different people have different experiences and different opinions. I spoke on Friday, and I'll speak again, about the idea of eventually creating a spreadsheet or a database where we can put in this source has reported this story, and it is either true, unproven, or false. And then we basically create a map or a pie chart of every single outlet. How much of their work is proven true, how much of their work is unproven, how much of it is proven false. We can use that to say, this outlet gets the most things right. This outlet has the highest percentage proven right. This outlet has the highest percentage of completely unprovable stuff. I think that'd be really valuable. And it'd be something that a lot of people in here could help with. Because it could be a case that we create a newsroom channel in the Discord. You just drop links of news in there. You can pop in and catch up with all the latest news. Meanwhile, we and the team on the Discord can take it, put it in the database. When it's proven true, proven false, we can update. and we'll just regularly look through the unproven, etc, etc, etc. I think that'd be really helpful. Michael says, looks like the writer's strike is ending, so I'd imagine Cena won't be lasting much longer in WWE. He will not be extending his appearances. Riyadh says, just wanted to thank you for answering all our questions, Tom. No other YouTube insider really does this in the wrestling space. I wouldn't call myself an insider. Wrestlers work extremely hard, and I'm simply not providing that sort of level of intensity. But I do appreciate that. Spoiler Warning is a show led by you, the viewer. So thank you for that. Trekker P says, are they repackaging The Rock's daughter? Yep. The other Mike says, for now, her All Jade appearance is going to be backstage. Yes and no. I think they're going to build her slowly. She'll be going back and forth a little bit. Razar says, a PWI, that's PWInsider, not PW Illustrated. Story was weird, like hasn't Triple H been in charge of creative since last summer? Seems like people can't accept that Triple H isn't perfect and can also make bad creative decisions sometimes too. Yeah, a lot of people just don't believe what is actually the fact. Spider-Boss says, I'm still thinking it was a mistake Charlotte versus Ronda match at WrestleMania 38. I think it was the wrong move. Oh, so you think Ronda should have won? Moxie says, Tom, who do you think should have ended the Undertaker streak? Bray. Joey says, is Bobby Roode done with wrestling? He was done with wrestling a long time ago. He's mostly been working backstage. They simply don't have anything of interest to him. Spider-Boss, I don't have an answer for that one, unfortunately. I don't have anything on Cora Jade. You may remember that before Money in the Bank, I reported that Drew McIntyre would be returning and would wrestle Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam. I also reported at that time that when it comes to a new contract for Drew McIntyre, what needed to happen in order to make him sign on the dotted line is the potential for wrestling for championships. The issue is, because he was moved to Raw, he would be required to 1. Turn heel, and 2. Wrestle Seth Rollins. You may know that since I reported that, Drew McIntyre returned, wrestled for the Intercontinental Championship against Gunther at SummerSlam. He's turning heel and is now reportedly going to be facing Seth Rollins. Not to pat myself on the back, but this isn't news for regulars here. And I'm starting to think BWE watches Spoiler Warning. If you're a regular here on Spoiler Warning, you will get news that you cannot find anywhere else. And if you do find it anywhere else, it will be weeks or days or months later. So please consider subscribing if you haven't already. We have reached 5,290. 10 more is what we're aiming for now to get to 5,300. But we're going to wrap it up there because we've been live for about an hour. Roger, I don't know about Sami Callihan. Triple H is apparently an admirer, but I don't necessarily see it. We peaked at, I believe, 86 viewers. We're on 71 likes, 207 views. The average view duration is incredible at 20 minutes. Absolutely huge number that will guarantee the growth of this channel for a long time to come. But this has been Spoiler Warning. Please do check out the Sasha Banks video. I'm really proud of it, and be sure to connect and engage with it as you can. But in the meantime, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.